ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Larkin, one half of the S&M Show podcast, and I'm back today with another interview. I am on the line with the very talented Miss Roni Big Bang Nicole. Roni, it's an absolute pleasure to be speaking with you tonight.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael. I'm really excited to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me as a guest.
It's no problem. I mean, to be honest with you, how can I not have you on the show? I mean, you've done a lot in your career. Like, who does not want to talk to Roni Big Bang Nicole? I mean, you really have done a lot of amazing work, so I'm happy to have you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I've done a lot, yes, but I've still got a ways to go. So always climbing and trying to get to that next level.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I really wish you nothing but success going forward. I'll start out by saying that because you've been doing a lot of great things, and it's really, you have such a bright future.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. So let's actually just start here, Roni, because we're definitely going to have your story told. You've been everywhere, pretty much. You've done Japan. You've worked with a lot of great people. But I wanted to start by asking you, growing up, who were some of your favorite either talents, or was there a defining matchup or moment that you said, you know what, this is something that I want to do, that be a career in professional wrestling?
I always gravitated towards the performing arts. I grew up doing a lot of different things that factor into you being a professional wrestler. And so it was just kind of a natural gravitation towards professional wrestling. But I think the event that sticks out in my mind the most was probably catching the inaugural episode of Monday Night Raw, and being young and seeing all that pageantry and, these over-the-top characters, and seeing Undertaker and Max Moon and Shawn Michaels, and being able to see these tremendous athletes, entertain and tell a story and really get to the nitty-gritty of the good versus evil, and really be over-the-top characters that appeal to all audiences. And I really connected with that, especially at such a young age, and not having really exposure to that type of thing. So it was really serendipitous that happened. But at the same time, everything that I was doing and everything that I continue to do in my life, factors into wrestling. So it's all been one fated journey, I suppose.
I gotta tell you something. That's a great way to start as well. The first ever Monday Night Raw, like you mentioned, Taker, Max Moon, a lot of them, watching Damien Demento take that tombstone pile driver from The Undertaker. So, I mean,
yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah, Damien Demento. And it's so funny, too, because I was watching the Raw 25 anniversary, which was last year, and it's amazing to see how far. I mean, that show has come. I mean, what is it, the longest reigning show in syndication or whatever it's done now? I mean,
yep.
Damn.
That's incredible, and to think that professional wrestling and wrestling at its heart really, has had that long of a legacy and has really been, mainstreamed by WWE in that way. It's tremendous. And, I think that's one of the special things about wrestling is that it's filtered into so many other facets of people's lives that they may not even realize it, artists, musicians references. You have, people who factor it into TV shows and movies and Netflix series and, just all different types of things that professional wrestling weaves itself into. I think it's pretty cool, that it has that effect on so many people and has had that effect for so long.
Now, we talk about legacies, and Miss Nicole, before we talk about your career in depth here, I got to ask you, women's wrestling, the evolution of it, people talk about, obviously, the legends like the Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young and how they've paved the way. I gotta ask you because, the time period people talk about, the bra and panties matches and the girls not getting the time and the bikini contest, etc., etc. You have to be so proud just to be a part of the women's wrestling scene that we have, just in general. I mean, just you're another one who's paving the way for the girls yet to come.
It is my hope to be one that's paved the way. I still feel that I'm, finding my feet in this journey as well. But I am very proud of being a part of this because in our way, each of us as women in professional wrestling, we bring our own sort of legacy and we bring our own touch to the story that will be told, in the future as it relates to professional wrestling. And I hope that we can take it from what was began, with Mae and Moolah and Sweet Georgia Brown and really further that and really create something that stands for power and empowerment and being strong and beautiful and representing the different facets of what it is to be a woman, within the industry itself. So I do think we have a little bit further to go. I'd love to see larger brands, more well-known federations having, more diversity of not only color and race, but of size and of character, because that's really what drew us in initially as young people, or even as older people. We got wrapped up in the good versus evil. We got wrapped up in the Dusty Rhodes. We got wrapped up in the Hacksaw Jim Duggans. So we still need that, because that's still life. We have people who do all sorts of different things and have all sorts of different interests, and especially with such a rise in pop culture and cosplay, and people doing different things to express themselves in the world that we live in today. I think that any sort of performance art should reflect that. And so as a woman, especially an Afro-Latina, I would love to see more color in professional wrestling. I would love to see more women of my size, in professional wrestling out there dominating. There's only a very small percentage of us that are represented sometimes. And so I would love to see that evolution to continue and to grow. And I think it begins with us here on the independent scene, working to really change hearts and minds and show what we can do so that it does open those doors, because that's what was done for us. So it's about paying it forward and continuing that evolution that you speak of.
Well, you mentioned something also very key in there. We talk about the size, and yes, people talk about girls like Nia Jax, and obviously there are a lot of big girls out there. And I gotta say, for what you do at your size, you're tremendous at what you do. I had this same conversation with the Weapon of Mass Destruction, Dementia DeRose, another one who's an incredible athlete for herself. So,
Yes. Big shout out to
Dementia.
Double D Rose. She is a tremendous athlete. Love her so much. We have some of the hardest hitting matches. I always know when I'm wrestling D the day after, because we put it to each other. And she's another one who's, changing hearts and minds in wrestling, especially by utilizing her weapon of mass destruction, in such a creative way. So big shout out to her and all the Georgia crew, Aja Pereira, the Duchess Azali, Nina Monet, Tragedy Ann. I'm forgetting people, but there's so many amazing girls. But yes, she's definitely one who is changing and paving her own legacy.
I had to mention that as well, because Dementia was actually one of the names on my list, because you two, my goodness, those matches that you two had, wow. I gotta say, that's another one. I had to bring that up because I've seen the matches and the promos that you two have cut together. I mean, like I said, you guys have great chemistry.
We do, and it's really, it's great to be able to wrestle all over the world and meet so many people and have matches with so many people. But it's also really great when you find those people you can connect with in the ring, and the instant that the promoter tells you that that's who you're wrestling, that you're going to be able to create something so organic. And Dementia's from that mindset of let's create. So people have this perception of wrestling being fake. I hate that terminology. Wrestling is fixed, yes, but not fake. But she's one of those people that I can really work with and say, we may know something ahead of time, but when we go out there, that's 100% us. We're creating the story as it comes, and I think it's really a testament to her training and her, ability to be able to do that. Because there are very few people who are comfortable doing that in that old school style. I personally am not one of the athletic storytellers. I can't do what Ricochet and Osprey do. I can't, I'm not a high flyer, and I'm not a spot monkey, if you want to use that term or whatever, but I think it's really cool that for what I do, she's one of those people that I can really create magic with. So big shout out to her. Love you, D. We'll always have Memphis.
I think that's probably the first time Spot Monkey has been said on this show. Very common term, but it's the first time probably in an interview that I've had that the term Spot Monkey has been used. But yes, I definitely agree. What you guys do, tremendous, tremendous work. Another one I have to mention, because we're going to bounce around here. There's a lot of great stuff to talk about with you here tonight, Roni. So, Roni, I got to mention this as well, because I've been having the talks with this person. She's coming on my show very soon. Charlie Cruel showed you a lot of love. I was speaking to Charlie, and she was saying she considers you a mentor, and she values every time that she either speaks with you or gets in the ring with you. So talk about working with Miss Charlie Cruel.
Wow. I met Charlie on one of my Midwest loops. I think I was wrapping up a month in the Midwest. And big shout out to everybody up there. I love working with that crew. Big shout out to Too Tough Tony and Cheese at Grindhouse. Big shout out to Madman Pondo for Girl Fight. Big shout out to Carrie Awful and Nick Iggy. Thanks, you guys, for letting me come and invade your locker room. But there's a lot of really cool shows and organizations that run out of the arena. And I was introduced to Charlie on that loop up there. And I always say I'm not a vet, I'm not a vet, I'm not a vet. And I hate, you know, I don't like being put in that position because I feel like I'm still growing and learning. I don't feel I'm 31 years old. I honestly still feel like I'm 21 years old sometimes, trying to figure out life and figure out wrestling. And so when I'm put in position to lead or to direct, I really do try to do it the best way I know how and the best way that I was trained. And so Charlie had a couple interactions with some other wrestlers that were awesome. And so I really wanted to give her the best interaction possible. And I'm from the tough love, old school kind of training, so that was kind of our relationship. But I see so much potential in her. She's got such heart. She's got such passion. And it's really cool that she's so young because, she's going to be able to go very far and have a really great career. So big shout out to her. I'm still keeping my eye on you, Miss. I hope things are going well. And I miss all the guys up there at Grindhouse. And big shout out to Jason Saint, who works with Charlie a lot as well. He's helping her and molding her into the cruel character, and that's really cool that she's got that. But yeah, Charlie and I worked out in Kansas and up in Indiana, and she's definitely, each time that we worked together, she improved, and I just value being able to give back what wasn't, necessarily given to me. When I first started, I didn't have any women or any woman mentor. I didn't really get that until I was really pretty, I'm not gonna say far, but I had been on the road for a while. I had changed carloads a couple times. I'd done a tour of Japan. So I didn't really get a mentor until later on. And so when I run into younger girls who want help, I'm definitely going to pass that along and pay it forward. I don't have all the answers. I don't claim to, but I do try to represent what was taught to me, what I've picked up along the way, to them in the best way possible, because I didn't really have that. And so I think it's different, especially as a young woman coming up in professional wrestling these days. And I think it's really important to have a network of kind of those female mentors who can help you and guide you, because as great as all my trainers were, big shout out to Nightstick Eddie Brown and C.W. Anderson, Chili Willy, Lou Marconi. Thank you guys so much for everything you've done. But it's different when you're a woman in a man's world, and having that female perspective and being able to kind of give feedback and some tips and tricks to keep yourself safe and to keep yourself aware and to make sure you don't get in situations that are dangerous. I think it's important and necessary. And so anything that I can do to help protect the next generation of girls, that's what I'm going to do. And so big shout out to Charlie. I love her. She's my little chickadee. And a big shout out to all the girls also out at Extreme Wrestling Center out in Raytown, Missouri. All of those women are coming up from a brand new women's division, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go out there, and Charlie went with me to host a workshop and to wrestle with those girls. And, we all had a great time, and they crowned a new champion, and they've already had, a title change. So they're really trying to represent for women. And I love going to places where the women's division is just growing and it's really catching hold, because it's so nice to see audiences being able to buy into what we're selling. It's really nice to start changing hearts and minds. And it's nice to see these young women coming up and doing that. So, yeah. I know that was kind of all over the place, Michael. Sorry.
You're fine. I was about to say, girl, you must be reading my mind, because I was about to talk about C.W. Anderson, Chili Willy being. I'm like, there's girls in my head. All right, just first and foremost here, Chili Willy, C.W. Anderson, Lou Marconi. I mean, need I say more? I mean, just talk about being trained by those individuals.
I feel very spoiled. I feel very lucky that I was able to work with them because, you know, it's not every day that you say that those are the men that have trained you and guided you, and look at their individual careers and look at the legacies that they have left, and are they're all still wrestling, so it's they're still working those legacies. But it was intense, and to say the least. CW went to Japan, so it was already kind of faded. I think I kind of got my early dose of Japan working with him because he was very stiff, and very intense, very much like my training was there. Chile was from, the old school. And so for him, intensity, cardio, and ability to chain and be fluid in the ring, it was repetition, repetition, repetition. Yeah, I know you're tired. Get up and get it again. Get up and get it again, And the same thing with Lou. He's from the Cleveland, Ohio area. So the legacy of Ohio wrestling, was deep, deep, deep within him. And so being able to, have that experience with him and be able to run the roads with him, because at the time, he was working for NWA and he was cycling through their different championships. And when he got the national championship, I was his little trainee, paying my dues and getting to sit and learn and listen to all of these great NWA guys talk about the territory days, and not only in the ring learn from these guys, but listen to the stories and be exposed to the other wrestlers that they brought me around. The same with CW's cousin Dan Wright, who actually owned the Fracture Factory where I trained. Being able to work with him and pay my dues, setting up the ring, going to shows, sitting outside the locker room because I wasn't even allowed in the locker room for the longest time. Making sure everything was set up the way it needed to be, selling merch. I was very, very fortunate to be exposed to a lot of great old school wrestlers, Jimmy Valiant, Barbarian, Animal, being able to be around Matt and Jeff Hardy, Shane Helms, being able to just sit and listen, and Lewis Moore, pick the brains of Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. It was really a lot, and I feel very, very spoiled because I got all of that poured into me very early. And I think that has shaped my journey. I think that has shaped my wrestling style and the way that I approach it, which is a little bit different. I kind of walk to the beat of my own drum through wrestling, but at the same time, I carry this legacy that I really value. So the moves I make and the way that I represent in wrestling, I take it very seriously because I carry a lot of that responsibility with me of what was given to me. I always say wrestling is a privilege. It's not a right. And, that I will believe that to the day I die, because wrestling has saved not only my lives, but, the life of others that I know and care about in this business. And so I try to do my best with all these guys, to show that their work was not ever held in vain.
Now, I have to mention this as well because we talked about girls with the size as well. I mean, mentioned dementia. You're Roni Big Bang Nicole. Now, I want to take it over to now the milkshake, because you got to get in the ring with Miss Faye Jackson herself. And again, another one for her size. She's very athletic, and she uses her assets a lot. So, talk about working with Faye.
Right. Yes. Big shout out to Faye Jackson. She is she is a tremendous athlete. She is one who also uses her size to her advantage, and she is so fun. Her character is so fun. Her milkshake literally does bring all the boys to the yard. That was a really fun match. That was the first match where there was twerking and shots and spears onto concrete floors and splashes through chairs and just crazy, craziness. But just so much of her own unique energy to wrestling, which is really cool. And she's so skilled, coming out of the Ring of Honor dojo. She's definitely got, a good set of chops on her. And I'm so fortunate to see where her career is going to go. We haven't had a lot of matches together. We've actually only had that one. So I can't wait to see what we're going to do in the future at other places when we cross paths. But yeah, she's another one who's trailblazing. And, I think it's very cool that all of these women who have these different curvy, voluptuous bodies, we all find our own way to, be different and not have to fit one particular style or one particular mold. And I think that's really a testament to the changing of wrestling and having that autonomy and being able to create our own little universes around our gimmicks and our characters.
Okay, now this one I have to mention as well because one is in the WWE as a referee, and one is on the Impact Wrestling roster now. Tessa Blanchard and one Jessie K, who is Lady Ref Jessica Carr. Talk about working with both of those ladies.
Yes, Tessa and I worked earlier in her career at PWX Wrestling out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Big shout out to Brian Kanabrowski and Patrick Price. We had a match. I haven't actually had the opportunity to or work with her again since then. I did see her recently, but yeah, she's done a lot to forge her path in wrestling, and I wish her a lot of success and luck. And yeah, Jessie, she we actually tag teamed at Queens of Combat when she was still wrestling as Kennedy Brink. So big shout out to her. Love you, girl. You make those zebra stripes look amazing. But yeah, big shout out to her. She is definitely a trailblazer because, female ref, and she's just killing it. She's raised the bar for anybody who comes into WWE looking to be a female, referee. And I think it's really cool how much she put into it. She would always say at Queens that she was going after it. And a lot of people say, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And whether they do it or not, it's kind of a 50-50 thing. But she was really one that when she heard what she needed to do, she went and grabbed the bull by the horns and she went all the way with it and has been so successful. So big shout out to her. Love her to death. And it's awesome to see her, it's awesome to see her every time I'm watching something. And I'm like, oh, there she is. Go girl. So that's really, really cool. I'm very fortunate to have crossed paths with her.
I'm going to bring up two Carolinian talents, if you will. Savannah Evans, number one. And number two, Maddie Max, who I believe not too long ago, we actually saw her on Monday.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I lost you, so I didn't get either name. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sure, I'll just repeat it. No worries. All good. All right, the first name was Savannah Evans. The second name was Maddie Max, who I believe we saw recently on Monday Night Raw. Her and Nia Jax, they're setting up the whole Nia Jax Ronda Rousey matchup going towards what we just saw at Money in the Bank. So talk about working with Savannah Evans and Maddie Max.
Yeah, Maddie and I worked at Gouge. I think I did a couple title defenses for her because I am their current longest reigning women's champion. Big shout out to Grog and all the guys at Gouge. And I think we worked maybe one Queens of Combat show, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, she's another girl who's not, I don't know if she's still in the area. I think she's actually up at OVW now. But she's, another girl who you cross paths with and, you do whatever's needed done by the promoter and you hope you've entertained the fans and told a great story. But Savannah and I have had, oh gosh, I don't know how many matches. We started out, I think it was at CWS Asheboro. Big shout out to Bobby Yates for giving us an opportunity to start out. Savannah's a couple years behind me, if I'm not mistaken, but we were always kind of the girls who got paired up, because we're either there with our trainers or riding in the car with somebody. And so we were able to really get a good rivalry going, which was really cool. Most recently, we wrestled up at Angel Gate Wrestling. Shout out to Jim Miller and Quinn Magnum and all the ladies up there. Angel Gate's really awesome in McKeesport, PA. And even though she got the win on me that time, I think that was actually a pretty good resolution to the rivalry that we've kind of had, but a competitive, friendly rivalry. She's such a great athlete. And I know that, she's definitely got a long way to go. She's done some WWE stuff. And so I wish her a lot of luck with all of that because I know that that's a passion and an interest of hers. So yeah, big shout out to you, Boo Boo. Love you. And I'm very happy that so many of these great girls from Carolina are getting all these opportunities. It's really cool to see.
To make a pop culture reference, like Petey Pablo once said, North Carolina, come on and raise up.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. He's actually a distant cousin of mine.
Are you serious? I did not know that. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to pull the curtain back for a second. You have no idea. When I was 9, and now I'm going to let everybody know a little thing about myself here. My family is from the Carolinas, man. My grandfather's from Pinehurst, North Carolina. I'm now in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'm a New York boy. I was born in New York, but the Carolinas has always been a second home to your boy here. But in 2001, when that song came out, oh, you have no idea. I used to play that nonstop. When I would drive down to the Carolinas, I used to blast that in the radio. My mom used to look at me like I was nuts. And I'm like, but North Carolina. And she's like, oh. And she would look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, but Ma, it's North Carolina. We're representing. You know what I'm saying? It's another one of those songs, just to go a little off topic here. It's awesome. So yeah, I just had to share that because I see now I didn't know that. So I just had to share that.
I mean, it was a banger.
It was. It is. Oh, that
Still is.
Freak a Leak. I mean, Goodies with Sierra. I mean, come on. We can be here all day with that. So, oh, now back to wrestling. Now you mentioned the word. How you don't like to use the word fake, because wrestling is, yes, it's predetermined, but you guys and gals put your bodies on the line. I think the one I always bring up the most is Dr. David Schultz smacking the living bejesus had a John Stossel on 2020 right in the ear, and he's talking about my eardrums are ringing. And now, yes, I had this discussion. So Brian Shields, who is, an author, writes a lot of wrestling books, we had this discussion because we talked about a lot of wrestling history here, Ronnie. Now, if he would have just worded that question better, I think he would have been fine. Or just not even say the F word. Just never say the F word, because it was just so disrespectful how he came off. And personally, I thought he got what he deserved. Now, did Dr. David Schultz get a fine for that? Oh, yeah, but John Stossel, that was just disrespect 100% right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, Ronnie, because I know you're coming from the old school, so I had to mention a old school reference right there, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, the times they have definitely changed, and it's definitely interesting to see some of the things that go on now that may have not been accepted. And it's funny that I talk like someone from that time, but even though I wasn't, but I think I kind of do hold those beliefs. I believe in wrestler's court. I believe in settling your problems like a man or a woman. I believe in owning up to what you say and what you do. And I'm not gonna, stray too far from wrestling, but it filters into wrestling. As the world changes, the things that happen in wrestling change, and things that happen in I guess our connected pop culture world and mainstream world change. So, let's just say there are certain things that go on that I personally wouldn't respond to well either. So
Got you. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, Ronnie, you're a very nice person. You're a very sweet person. I always had pleasurable interactions with you. But I'm going to tell you right now, I can already tell I don't want to get on your bad side. So obviously, that will never happen here. So like I said, that's why I'm happy to have you on my good side. And I'm happy to be on your good side, to be honest with you.
Well, I think it takes a little bit. I think when I was younger, I had a shorter fuse, but life kind of lengthens the fuse for you. And I think also wrestling definitely gives you some chops to deal with a lot. It's a lot being an independent contractor, so to speak. So it's definitely been a growing process and continues to still be.
I'm going to ask you a very curious question here. What I mean by curious is, so you're Ronnie Nicole, Roni. Now, I got to ask you, has anybody or any instance come up where somebody called you Roni?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. Yes. I'm not entirely sure like where people get that from.
Bobby Brown?
I guess, but I thought it was pretty self-explanatory, and I'm kind of a reading writing nerd, and so I was definitely phonetically trying to go with something that would not be difficult, but those 4 letters do seem to be difficult. I also get Ronnie like the boy, or Ronny or Nichole. I'm not sure where the H came from. Someone put a K in it one time too, and I was like, no, that's not right either. So, just as a blanket, everyone, so you know, it's Roni, Big Bang, Nicole. There's four letters in Roni, and there's no H in Nicole, but I roll with it. I'm sure that there are other people who have much more difficult struggles, especially, luchadors when they come to the States or go to other countries. People mispronouncing Ronnie as Roni is it's
Well,
trivial.
and to make one final pop culture reference there, that's kind of an honor though, because Roni was a big hit by Mr. Bobby Brown. Don't Be Cruel, New Jack Swing, late '80s, good time. And then if you mention like you said they do it Ronnie like the boy, I could go back to the '60s and talk about Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, but we'll be here all day, so we'll go back to wrestling here. All right, I've had these two ladies on my show. You have had the chance to work with them. Ashley Vox, Delmi Exo, Team Sea Stars. Talk about working with those ladies.
Yes, that was actually at the Rise Shimmer weekend a few years ago. I was tag teaming as Buru Death Squad with the Fallen Flower Kikyo. And we had a tag team match. It was pretty hard hitting, which is unfortunate for the Sea Stars and that little shark they had running around the ring, or I guess swimming around the ring, Jocelyn.
Yep.
Those girls, as troublesome as they were a lot of fun to work with. So it was definitely a fun match. And being in that, the Berwyn Eagles Club, that's a pretty historic venue. And I feel fortunate to be able to, now that I'm in the States a little bit more, to work in some historic places here stateside, which is really cool because there's always tremendous shows out of that building and out of that area, so it was definitely a fun match, and shout out to those ladies. And I think congratulations is in order to Jocelyn, who recently got engaged. So good luck on your nuptials, sweetheart. I wish you two the best. And I think that there's definitely a round two needed, because I've picked up some more sushi skills since coming back from Japan. So I think Sea Stars Sushi Time Part 2 needs to be set up.
Do it up. I mean, that even sounds like a plan right now, man. I'm just listening to you talk about sushi, and I'm like, I'm in. Hot damn.
Yeah. So good.
Now, you mentioned Kikyo, because that was another name. Kikyo's been doing her thing with Rise. I believe another one of the Rise talents you got to work with was the ballsy badass herself, Miss Shotzi Blackheart. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, I've worked with Shotzi a couple times. Most recently was at Rockstar Pro Wrestling in Dayton, Ohio at the Rockstar Arena. She's got tremendous potential. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with her and those Rise girls when they go over to Japan. And, as they've got all these great things going on with the Rise Network and Ascent and everything that Kevin Harvey's doing. And I know that they've recently linked up with Impact. So they're doing some great stuff. And, she's another one to watch.
Talk about Sojo Bolt, Solo Darling, Ariel Monroe, working with those ladies.
Yeah, that was for Queens of Combat, which Sojo is not actually working with any longer, but big shout out to her. She's definitely someone who's always been a great mentor. When I linked up with them and offered great advice and gave me wonderful opportunities to work with Queens of Combat and have some great matches. Working with Ariel and working with Solo was really fortunate for me because they're so creative and talented, and Solo has an amazing character and she's constantly evolving with it, which is really cool how she can still remain so unique and within the realm of what she loves to do, but keep it evolving. And Ariel, of course, coming from a tremendous training legacy at George South Wrestling School in Charlotte, North Carolina. And, her soon-to-be husband, I think they actually get married this weekend. So big shout out to her and Cedric. Happy wedding. Love you guys. So, being able to work with her and have an awesome match and tell great stories and bring different sorts of magic to the ring. It was really fun, and it's been a really great experience. So hopefully I'll return to Queens in the future. Still got a couple things in the works, so we'll see.
we're about to get into Japan here because there's a lot with Japan, and I definitely want to discuss that because there's a lot of great work in Japan. New Japan Pro Wrestling, just Stardom, all great promotions. But one name I have to mention also as well, actually two, excuse me, Malia Hosaka, and just talk about working with Alley Cat as well.
Yeah. I had a match with Ali. I think it was a triple threat,
Mm-hmm.
and she's got a really cool gimmick, and she's another one to watch. And Malia Hosaka, wow, she's definitely one of those old school veterans that I kind of wish in early in my career I could have had a little mentorship from, because she's been everywhere and done so much. And had such a tremendous career. And again, that was Queens of Combat that I was fortunate enough to have a singles match and a tag team, match with her, and sit under her learning tree and learn just, little things about being a heel and being a good character and putting together match psychology, especially, working in different circumstances with those of different skill levels. She's really forthright with information when she sees that you are forthright and wanting to learn, and, willing to sit down and really absorb what is being handed to you. So big shout out to her, and I thank her for all of the knowledge that she has passed on to me in that time.
Let's get into Japan now. Ronnie, first and foremost, talk about. We're going to get to a lot of opponents here, but talk about the overall experience working in Japan, the rich history. You got to be thrilled to be a part of the Japanese, just working in Japan and just being around the Japanese culture and just all the whole nine. Just talk about the overall Japanese experience, just working in Japan.
It was incredible. It always is incredible. I got the opportunity to go to Japan at a time when I was really kind of disenchanted with wrestling. And so it really revitalized my passion and my love for wrestling. It made me see how wrestling was meant to serve others and to not use it to serve myself. And so wrestling really was reopened up to me. My eyes were opened, in a different way, being there and being able to study the business aspects and see how professional wrestling is so integrated into the mainstream culture of Japan. It is timeless, wrestling itself, but it is something that has really been in Japan since the beginning of time there. And, I think it's really interesting to see how when foreign wrestlers go, they also embrace that feeling and that understanding of the difference of how wrestling is represented there. And it was just such an honor and a privilege, to be there and to work with the companies I was able to meet the people I was able to meet, from my passion of Japanese culture and of learning about Japan through a grainy VHS tape, in my teens, to actually going there and living there and moving there. Just being able to do that, that was something that I never in a million years would have thought would have been opened up to me. And I have to really thank my sponsor for the first few tours, Yoshiaki Nakamura and Steve Carino, for really facilitating those opportunities for me to work with World Women Pro Wrestling Deanna and Seedling and Marvelous. Those were some truly tremendous opportunities that I definitely owe to them. And I thank, Japan for the opportunity to be there and embracing me and training me and, turning me into an actual professional wrestler. So it's been an honor and a privilege to live there, to wrestle there, and to, as soon as I'm able to return there.
A couple names I want to mention. One name you got to work with is Kajetsu. Now we've seen Kajetsu doing her thing, Stardom, Women of Honor, all over Japan. Talk about working with Kajetsu.
Yes, she is tremendous. She was actually my very first match, my very first tour there. It was at Shinjuku Face, and she and I were a tag team. And, I was nervous because I knew of her reputation. I knew of her, legacy. And so I was scared and worried and overwhelmed. And she was very patient and very kind. And, my very first match there wasn't terrible, but it wasn't super great. And my sponsor, Mr. Nakamura, kind of gave me a little pep talk of what needed to happen if I was to continue to be there. And she, was very kind and gave me the same type of advice. And, see, every time I would see her thereafter, she was always so kind and excited to see me, and watching her perform, was always amazing. Every time I would see her in matches, she always just took it to the next level. So yeah, it was awesome. And definitely she's somebody who I hope to be able to work with in the future again.
All right, now let's talk about. Got to mention a legend here, Aja Khan.
Oh wow, yeah. She Aja Sama, as they call her. She is just everything I thought she would be and more. She was one of the people that it took me a little while to meet because of her schedule and how in demand she is. And when I finally did meet her, I was, of course, trying to suppress my fangirl and keep my life together. But it was hard because, she represented something that I wanted to be. She's half Black, half Japanese, with the respect of the entire wrestling community. And that's something that's very hard to earn, being Hafu in Japan, which I learned through working with Afro Kids, which is a nonprofit organization that I worked with there, which was comprised of Hafu children. And so I learned a lot about Japan and their culture and how they view different races, and some of the different nuances of their belief systems there. And so for her to have risen to the legend status that she has her own denomination to represent how significant she is in wrestling, that's just, it blows my mind, and it's really humbling. And so when I found out that I was going to be working with her in tag team, the office was telling me what my matches were going to be and going over my schedule. And the office secretary kind of smiled and paused when he was listing the next matches. And I looked up because I was writing it down, kind of expecting him to continue. And he goes, Aja-sama. And I just screamed. And he started laughing because I was just screaming and like spinning in a circle and just so excited because, that has been a dream come true. It's just her legacy and her feuds with Minami Toyota and the matches that they had, like, that set me over the top over her with her and Toyota-san. And I was just blown away that I was going to get to have that opportunity. And so when I finally got to meet her and work with her, and then afterwards, she gave me feedback, but she said, she wanted to work with me again. I was just, over the over the universe, because I never really expected that. And I don't think that I was able, especially because of the language barrier. I'm pretty much preschool to elementary school Japanese. I'm still working on it even while I'm stateside, but I wasn't able to express to her how meaningful she as a person and her career was to me. I think she understood, but I think she saw it in my eyes, and me tearing up and being a nerd, but I value what she has given to wrestling so much. And so being able to work with her, that was really, a pinnacle in my career for me. And being able to work with her multiple times, I never, thought that would be an opportunity. And I have to say thanks to Meiko Satomura of Sendai Girls Pro Wrestling, because she was really, integral in making sure that those matchups happened. And she always, gave me some great matchups and some awesome matches that I was able to grow and learn from and really perform through. And, so it was really, it really is, it's something that's unbelievable. Sometimes I had to pinch myself because I can't believe that this is my life and this is the career that I was blessed with and that found me. And, having those moments and having those type of matches, that's something I'll never, ever be able to forget.
Now, Miss Nicole, I have to mention this as well because the topic gets around a lot because we touched base a lot with your career, Japan, and just a lot of this in this forum here. We touched a lot of ground. I have to ask you about intergender wrestling because I gotta say, intergender wrestling is something that I think is great. I know Lucha Underground incorporates that a lot. You see it a lot on the independent scene. We saw James Ellsworth doing his thing with the Intergender Championship, a little play off of, a little respect and homage to Andy Kaufman with what he had back in the 80s. How do you think about the whole intergender wrestling scene is right now?
I think I'm a big fan of intergender. That's how I started my career for the first 3 years or so. All I did was intergender wrestling. It was very few and far in between that I would actually find or have the opportunity to wrestle another female wrestler. And so it's definitely something that I'm not going to say my roots are based in, but I have a familiarity with. And, at some points I do miss. Um, I think there's something pretty cool about going into the ring and having it be of equal measure. A lot of people like to make a distinction between wrestling, and in my mind, the distinction only comes because of gender. For me, wrestling is wrestling, and I love the fact that there are some women who have really made that the cornerstone of their careers, and that they have become so well known for it, and that they continue to push the limits and shatter those ceilings of what is conventional in terms of wrestling and what is really accepted. I come from the South, and so we come from the Southern style. I guess you would kind of say that old Memphis Crockett style of wrestling, and so it is different when you're in this area. In terms of what you see intergender, there's still places in the South that do not like it and won't have it. And, it is something that I believe with a little more time will filter into those areas, and maybe the appreciation will change. But I really think it's cool of the places that do really embrace it and allow it to happen. They make room for a different mindset, and they make room for more opportunity to tell different types of stories that don't have to just be one way. And I think that intergender wrestling, especially when you talk about up north or in the Midwest, it's definitely got a really cool flavor, and I'm excited to see what some of these larger promotions are going to continue to do with it, especially places like Lucha Underground, which is a great product. Been a fan from the beginning, so big shout out to them.
Oh yeah, I just checked out season 4, episode 1 last week. I thought it came across great. This week is episode 2. We're going to see Pentagon Dark against Matanza Cueto. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes up with this season.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. I think they've really popped the lid on something new with wrestling. I think that there are a lot of little niche groups of wrestling that are breaking the mold and are doing different things, and that's good for wrestling overall. The more that it can evolve, the more that it can expand, that opens it up to different audiences, it opens it up to more people, and that's good. Because in the world that we live in, I feel like we definitely need something that's going to provide a meaningful escape in a positive way for people, because you may not be able to change your everyday circumstances, but if you can be enthralled and captivated by what we do for an hour to 3 hours, that's, I feel like, worth it. If we can take the struggle and the stress and the sadness away and create something cool and that can suspend your disbelief and make you forget things are how they are for just a little bit, I think that's pretty dope. I think that's one of the best things about being a professional wrestler.
Now I have to ask you about one other opponent here, Nyla Rose. Talk about working with Nyla Rose. I believe you guys did some work in Japan as well, and Nyla, I believe, is the current Warriors of Wrestling women's champion over there. Talk about working with Nyla. She's another tremendous talent.
Yeah, Nyla is one of those individuals, much like dementia, that I know that I'll always be able to tell a great organic story with. She's actually my vet, so I know that I'll always get led really well through the matches, and that she's always open to doing fun, creative things. She has a tremendous gimmick. I know that right now she's over in Japan again with Marvelous, and they love her there. She was definitely well received. And yeah, we did some work together over there as well. And, I know that we're always going to be able to tell a great story and be able to be open to each other's ideas and be able to really build something that's going to leave the audience wanting more. And I think it's very fortunate when you can find somebody that you can create and connect with on multiple levels. And she's definitely one of those people.
Other thing with Japan, man, Chris Jericho. I gotta say this right now. 10-time Intercontinental Champion, 9 of those in WWE, but man, that match with him and Naito, one time IWGP Intercontinental Champion. It's great to see the interaction with Chris Jericho in Japan as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, Chris Jericho is one of those athletes. I was actually talking to one of the trainees at Ring Wars Carolina down in Fayetteville about this a few weeks ago. He's one of those athletes that has always been very smart. He's always known exactly what to do to be able to elicit a response without having to go to extreme measures with his body. And I think that is something that's really cool, and that's something that's really intelligent about him. And, every little thing that he does has its own little flair that makes it memorable. And that's something I think we all as performers need to strive for, not necessarily moments that can be gift, but moments that can be made permanent and memorable. And he's definitely somebody who's done that. Big fan of him.
Now, I have a couple final questions, and I just want to say right now to you, the invitation is open. If you ever want to come back on the show, I'd be more than happy to have you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a lovely and pleasant, wrestling discussion. You said it was going to be easy and shoot the breeze, and it definitely has been such. So thank you.
Now, you're very welcome. And number two, I'll say this right now to any of my guests that have been on my show as far as interview guys, I pretty much told the exact same thing with Roni. Roni, I've been looking forward to having this discussion for a while now, and I'm glad that we had this come to fruition today. As you can hear in these forums, it's very easy. We're just gonna shoot the breeze and talk wrestling. It's nothing like where we're gonna spew negativity and shoot on this person, shoot on that. No, we're just gonna talk about experience and making fun, because that's what pretty much wrestling is, and just anything you do in life. You just gotta have fun with it and enjoy yourself and be happy.
Absolutely, 100% agree.
Now, all right, I like to ask people as well about the origins of their gimmick, and I know you have the Big Bang moniker with you. Talk about how that came into fruition, the whole Roni Big Bang Nicole.
Well, Big Bang Nicole was given to me by World Women Pro Wrestling Deanna. When I was asked to come over, they wanted to bill me as a monster. And I guess the best example for them to describe it to me was, a hybrid of Big Bang Vader and Kong, because they absolutely adore Kong over there. So, it was up to me to kind of take that and turn it into what it is now, and I think that the evolution to Roni Big Bang Nicole here in the States is still the same principles of a powerhouse, of somebody who gets in the ring and dominates and gets it done, because I fully believe that is my ring. But at the same time, I'm here to entertain and I'm here to perform. And so that is something that I definitely have been working on recently, with formulating who Roni Big Bang Nicole is. And she is a powerhouse badass, and definitely not above using, nefarious means to get the job done. And so it's definitely been something that has evolved not only through life, but my wrestling career, because I started out as the She-Hulk of the South, which at the time was very close to who I was. A quieter person in real life, but definitely very savage in the ring. And so that savagery has been honed, especially, spending 4 years in Japan under the crucible of that training regiment and performance regiment. The beast does get honed into something a little more calculating and a little bit smarter and a little bit more evolved, so that it can continue to sustain and survive. And so that's where Roni Big Bang Nicole is now, and right now I'm on the hunt for worthy opponents in gold. So that's pretty much the direction that I'm heading. At the end, everyone always asks me, what are my goals in wrestling? Well, wrestling domination, obviously. What's the point of coming into wrestling if you don't want to be the absolute best, if you don't want to be synonymous with success and the legacy of wrestling? And so come hell or high water, that will happen. My intentions in wrestling are always pure, to make it better and leave it better than I found it. But I'm not going to fool myself that I'm not in this to build the best legacy with my name that I can. And with the foundation that I have, it's possible. It's more than possible. So look out, wrestling world. I'm still on the prowl and I'm ready to take it over.
Now, I promised I wouldn't mention a pop culture reference in this, but I got one more here. In the words of Mary J. Blige, what's the 411? You got it going on. So, Ronnie Big Bang Nicole, you got it going on.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, before we close out, I'll have you promote the social media and your upcoming events as well. Any advice to any guy or gal that wants to step into the ring and become a professional wrestler?
I was asked this question from the very beginning of my career, and I used to say get properly trained and study film and eat well, go to the gym, work out. But professional wrestling is so much more than just doing those things. So my advice is make sure that professional wrestling is in your heart and not your ego, because the difference is going to be noticeable, and the reasons that you do things are important. Your intent in wrestling will be reflected in what you do. And so make sure that your intent to be a professional wrestler is pure, because you love it, because you want to entertain people, because you have something to fight for, because you're representing something. Whatever it is, make sure that that reason is for the right reasons, because we do have a lot of things in wrestling that could be worked on and changed. And we need to continuously add to the good and promote the positive, and start weeding out the negative, the manipulators, the liars, the people who are in it for themselves. We have to be accountable for each other, because that's what it's about, holding each other accountable for change.
Beautifully said. And Ronnie, this is where I step back and I'll give you the forum. Just talk about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Forum's yours. Upcoming events. Promote yourself. Go right ahead.
Well, you can catch me on Facebook. It's Roni Big Bang Nicole. I am not accepting any fans on my personal page because I'm running out of room for promoters. I'm sorry, guys. So please make sure you like my fan page, because I'll be posting all my dates and show information there. You can catch me on Twitter at Glitterlicious, on Instagram at Glitterlicious Bang Bang. If you search for about.me, it's Roni Nicole. Please like my YouTube channel, Roni Big Bang Nicole, as well. And for promoters who are interested in booking me for appearances, modeling events, professional cheerleading, speaking engagements, or motivational speaking, you can email me at roninicoler@gmail.com. I will be dropping a brand new t-shirt designed by Fernando Lyons. So check out my page and check out all of my social media so that you can place your order. A portion of the proceeds are going to be going to a specific charity, and that will be named on my post, so please check that out. And yeah, any promoters who are wanting to book me, please inbox me or email me again at roninicoler@gmail.com for booking information. And have passport, will travel. And thank you so much, Michael, for having me on the show. It's been an absolute blast and an absolute pleasure, and I really look forward to returning in the future.
Absolutely, and I look forward to having you, Ronnie. This has been an absolute blast. I enjoyed talking to you, and with the utmost sincerity and respect to you, I truly wish you nothing but continued success going forward.
Thank you so much. And good luck with the show. Any wrestlers, please make sure you hit him up. It's an awesome time, and it's definitely just a really cool conversation with a cool guy, so you'll definitely not regret it.
I appreciate that, Ronnie. Thank you so much. Now, Ronnie, you're welcome. Just any final words for the fans as well. Please go right ahead.
No, I don't know. Oh, you put me on the spot. Hashtag bang bang. That's all I got.
Hashtag bang bang. All right, Ronnie, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Michael. I'll talk to you soon.